I am very, very, very excited to be with you guys here today. First of all, let me say welcome and say boom! We're putting a stake in the ground today and saying that messaging will be the next frontier of innovation for growth of organizations, for digital channels, for most importantly, engagement with consumers in a space where the most amount of human attention exists today. So since this is the Messaging Summit, it would be wrong if I didn't ask all of you guys to text me. Feel free to text me, 646-759-1837. If you put in hashtag SMW Social Media Week, I will actually send you a free gift with response. I won't let you guys know exactly what that is, but you'll have to find out on your own. What's interesting, just to give you guys some background, my name is Bonin Bough. I previously was Chief Media and E-commerce Officer for an organization called Mondelez International, which is the largest snack food company in the world. Before that, it was Kraft, and then we changed our names, and we own some of the best brands in the world, whether it's Oreos, Cadbury, Wheat Thins, Stride. I can feel people texting me right now. You name it. And my job was to buy all of our media around the globe, 7th largest buyer in the world, as well as I built our e-com business from 65 to about $265 million in the 18 months that I ran it before I left. But during my journey, I also took that organization on a change to where technology was transforming. And so I moved us from 3% spending in digital to 32% spending in digital, adding an additional $2 billion of incremental net revenue to the top line and $300 million to the bottom line. But really ushering in playbooks to help us understand how to use new technologies at scale. Before that, I ran digital globally for PepsiCo. Again, this was much earlier days of digital. Some of those folks are in here today. But really taking an organization and moving them into this uncharted territory where consumers had moved, but organizations hadn't moved to quite yet. Today, I run Bonin Ventures. The CEO, Justine Watkins, is in here, and we are a growth accelerator. We do three things. We invest in companies, we provide strategy, and then we also provide access, with really the idea of accelerating their growth. But the category that we invest in the most is messaging technology. We are the largest messaging portfolio, I believe, in the world today. What's interesting is that journey actually, for me, began when I was living in China. We were relaunching Oreo, and I was watching this tiny company called WeChat. And at that time, this was before all of the connectivity and products that they have in the product today. It was literally just a text messaging platform. But what was mind-blowing to me was the penetration that it had across China. And I began to think, well, if the most amount of human attention today is actually spent inside of messaging, then the one thing I know that's true is that advertisers will have to figure out how to participate where human attention goes. And so there must be a new wave that is going to crash our shores. This is over 5 years ago, where messaging will be a platform that we as brand marketers, as advertisers, as communicators have to figure out how to participate in. And when you look today at where WeChat has grown, the small platform that I saw as just a messaging platform has now become almost 1 billion users. Almost the entire country of China uses the platform. 83% of people purchase through the platform, and 200 million people use WeChat payments. And what I don't think we realize is that if you think about China, China was the single largest migration out of poverty in human history. But more interesting than that is, it was one of those countries that leapfrogged. But what gets happened in those countries is that many of the cornerstones to the economies, like banking, get left behind. So you have an entire population of unbanked. WeChat comes in and provides, all of a sudden, an entirely new banking system. And we're not just seeing that, which changes economies. We're not just seeing that in China, but if you go to Africa, you can see the exact same thing with M-Pesa. And if you go to Latin America, you're seeing the transformation through messaging again, transforming the unbanked into banked using message and mobile payments. And so when we really begin to think about messaging, the opportunity across the world is more vast than I think any other platform that we've seen today. I did happen to write a book while I was in China. It's called Txt Me, and it's meant to be the freakonomics of the mobile generation. And it looks at the untalked about and undiscussed impact that mobile's had on every single aspect of life, from dating to religion to parenting to memory and more. And it's 120 interviews with everybody from Pharrell to Dick Costello to Peter Guber, owner of the Dodgers and the Warriors, and a bunch of people in between. Originally, the book was supposed to be called Digilance. And I wanted to find a publisher who would transform publishing with me. And I found one. They said, yes, Bonin, we want to transform publishing. I said, amazing, let's do it. When we were done writing the book, I was sitting in a coffee shop with the researcher, and what I realized, Luke Robert Mason, who's here, what we realized was we hadn't actually changed publishing. All we did was write a 120-page book. But what we wanted to do, because originally the book was supposed to be called Digilance, this big book. So what we wanted to do, though, we wanted to connect with every single person who saw the book, who bought the book, who read the book. And we had this brilliant idea. And we decided we were going to put my phone number on the cover, and we were going to text with people because the impact of this device and channel was so great that we hadn't talked to enough people. So I ran back to the publisher and I said, guess what? I'm going to put my phone number on the cover of a book. And they said, get out. We didn't want to change publishing, you moron. We just wanted you to use your LinkedIn influence to sell books. We lied to you. So I bought the rights to the book back, and we've actually published the book. We published the book with a different publisher. And to date, we've texted with over 50,000 people over the last number of years. And what's interesting is there's been a lot of learnings. So when we released the book, we had to use technology. We wanted to test the technology. It's hard to text with 50,000 people in just iMessage, so we used a piece of technology. But we asked people a very simple first question. We said, what's the very last thing you look at before you go to bed? Your partner or your cell phone? 80% of people, of course, said their cell phone. One guy was so mad at me, he said, Bonin, now I have to make it a point to look at my partner before I go to bed instead of my cell phone. I was like, you're welcome for the dating advice? Text back, yes, I'll auto bill. I don't know what to tell you. But we talked, a younger generation talked a lot about dating and how it's changed just flirting, and how the emergence of emojis have created entirely new contextual situations in that text app. I'm sure that many of you know that. Others said, the girls said, women said that we are excited about dating platforms because there's a double opt-in so we don't feel preyed upon. Men said, we're also excited because we're no longer afraid of rejection. We know that that person wants to meet us. And I said, you know what I hate? What I hate is that I grew up being rejected and it builds character. Screw this generation that doesn't get rejected. It also has changed parenting. What is the average age that somebody would give a kid a cell phone? Somebody just yell out a number. 8, 10, some more? 17. Wow. Don't be born through that. Somebody else. 10. There was a couple of 10s in here. Those are the closest. It was actually, raise your hand, 10s. Okay, nice. I just said 10s, not 9s. It's going to be a long day. So Social Media Week's going to give you a gift. I don't know what it is. Good luck collecting it. Anyway, 12 happened to be the average age. But what was more interesting was that what we discovered was there's this continual flow of communication which changes a lot of things. First, there's a collapsing of hierarchy. So there used to be a time when you're driving to work and you're upset and little Johnny's pulling on you and you're like, please leave me alone. Little Johnny's like, but I need to know why the sky's blue. And you're like, the sky's blue because I said so. And now they're like, well, that's weird because Google just has a totally different answer than that. So, or do not smoke marijuana, little Johnny, it's bad for you. Well, your friend just put photos of you doing bong hits in college and you turned out okay. So this collapsing of hierarchy that we talk about, this mass transparency in companies, that also was happening in individuals, or the death of rebellion. When I was young and I was growing up, I used to tell my parents I'm going to little Johnny's house, and no matter what happened in between, as long as I got there at a reasonable time, they were like, okay with it. But now we literally have GPSs in kids' pockets, so we know where they are every single moment of their life. But even more scarier is when I went to college, I talked to my parents maybe once a week, at best, if I was lucky or unlucky, depends on your relationship with your parents. But now, if that was supposed to be the moment in time when you left the parental unit and you became the person you were going to be in life, the question becomes, does that still exist when there's a continual flow of communication? So something as simple as messaging is having impacts on even how we grow up. The other thing that we found was interesting was that it turns out 80% of newborn babies have their photos texted to their family, within the first hour of their birth. So the very first thing they see is dad there, standing with the iPhone or the Android, depends on the economic level. And he's going, okay, can you smile? And the baby's like, I can't smile, I'm being bored, can we do this later? So, one of the things you'll see today, the theme of when consumers change, organizations are slow to move. So I thought to myself, okay, 20%, there's got to be an opportunity here. 20% don't have their photos texted to their family within the first hour. This is a very big issue. So ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Nelfie, the newborn selfie, ladies and gentlemen. No child left behind. We can make birth great again. We have the tools and the power. We can do it. We've also turned pee time into me time. We ask people, what's the thing that you hate most about you and your phone? They say, you know what we hate? We hate that I take it to the bathroom and I text. I said, you know what I hate? You know what I hate? I hate that you're telling me you take it to the bathroom and you text, I'm a perfect stranger, and I'm texting you back from the stall. But it also means consumer behavior shifting. So I thought there must be an opportunity here. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you charging stations in stalls. Who's with me? Whoa, this is a big idea. This is like Uber. Turns out somebody's already trying it, so there's already a toilet paper roll. So this is available in stores, but apparently you have to have, an older version of a phone in order for this to work. So we're working on a new version. Don't worry if you guys will all get equity before you leave here. Okay, only if you text me, of course. But what became more apparent to me in texting with so many people is that the reality is while this platform provides huge opportunity, it's actually more personal than we actually really realize. And so it's interesting, when people text me, they don't know what to say, right? I gave you guys a cue. I said send a hashtag, but most people don't know what to say. So they say everything from like, hey. So I write hey back. I text with 50,000 people. I got time for hey. Like, come on, something better, please. Or they write hi. So here's a person who wrote hi. So I write hi back. They go, took you long enough. First of all, coming in real hot with that. Okay. Real hot. For a number found on the title of a textbook, I thought I'd get a response much sooner. LOL. Gotta put LOL so you know I'm being jovial. Literally, I wrote an entire book on texting. I think I understand LOL, but thank you for the definition. I mean, it's not a textbook, it's a marketing book. You should get an autoresponder for this number. I said, yeah, I didn't want to do an autoresponder because it didn't feel genuine, but did you read the book? No, I was browsing the section where the book was and curiosity kicked in. Great. No, I didn't. Thank you. Didn't buy it, didn't read it. Good luck. Well, I'm glad you were curious enough to text, but I must say, it's a good book if you ever have a chance to read it. LOL. Boom, right back at you. Two can play this LOL game. I'll give it a read over next time I'm in Barnes. I don't even know what it's about. I just thought it'd be interesting to see what happens if I text a number. So I write, well, it's about mobile culture. Freakonomics of a mobile generation looks at the undiscussed and not talked about impact that mobile's had on every aspect of life, from dating to religion to memory and more. Ha ha ha. Speak of dating definitely ruined my last relationship. I was a texter, he was a caller. We were doomed from the start. LOL. Now I'm like, maybe you need to understand what the definition of LOL is. I think I got it pretty good. Do tell me more, I write. Actually, the book is interviews of 120 people. I decided to put my phone number on it so I could talk to more people about how it's changing their lives. Did you guys meet on a dating app? No. We were college sweethearts. So how did the phone bring on what you believe is the inevitable? Well, I find that because I text so much, I have a hard time articulating myself on my feet. You can't Google the definition of a word mid-conversation to make sure you're using it correctly. You can't take too long to respond or people will perceive you as not so bright. You can't edit your words mid-conversation. My ex is a life coach, motivational speaker, soon-to-be author, Marine, and has the charisma of a politician. Communicating with him is a struggle for me. I even had panic attacks when I needed to communicate anything serious to him. So now I'm like, how do we get right back to LOL? Like, how do we... This is a little bit scary for me. She goes on, I'm just your average receptionist with dreams of being an entrepreneur, but no ideas of how to materialize them or where to start. I write, wait, sounds like you're very perceptive and self-aware, so I'm sure you're a rock star. Maybe it was not you who had a hard time communicating. Maybe he was just so used to speaking that he didn't know how to listen. Come on, guys, that's right. I just put a number on the cover of a book, dude. I'm not a professional. I'm doing what I can. So I write back, what's the idea? Didn't write back, clearly not an entrepreneur. But what it begins is this journey in terms of where the consumer is in this platform. The reality is that because it's such a personal platform, we see response rates like we've never seen before. 95% of people own a mobile device, 98% open rate, 90% messages are read within 3 minutes. So huge opportunity when we think about brands and marketers. And what I began to realize is that everything that exists for ad tech today will exist for messaging tech tomorrow. But still, as an industry, we are massively slow to adopt, as we always are. I love this slide. It says, honk if you love Jesus, text while driving if you want to meet him. Even our religious institutions understand the importance of text messaging, but still, we are slow to move. And the reality is the only way that we begin to learn how to leverage these platforms is through events like this. The reality is business schools will not teach us. 0% of the course descriptions of business schools are even talking about messaging and the importance. Less than 1% of companies are using it, and less than 2% of conferences and events are even talking about it. Yet the most amount of human attention exists there today. So the future begins at the Messaging Summit today. And we will have over 25 presenters talking about their experiences with everything from conversational commerce to fan engagement to how do you build audiences to how do you communicate and protect, most importantly, the privacy of consumers within this space. We firmly believe that there's $1 trillion opportunity if you just look at the size of media, if you look at the size of e-commerce, if you look at the size of services, and you look at the size of payments alone, it's over $10 trillion. We believe that messaging will easily have at least 10% of that marketplace, so clearly creating $1 trillion opportunity. We also believe, as I mentioned before, that the most important thing in this space will be privacy. How do we protect the consumer privacy? How do we ensure that the experiences are those that are asked for? How do we make sure that they're easy to opt out and opt in? And most importantly, how do we provide value? And we're going to discuss how those are created in this space. We also believe that, well, people ask the same question is, are you there? Are consumers actually texting? Every single one of you are texting with businesses. In fact, we did a study, and 100% of consumers said that in the last 30 days they've actually texted with a business. We're beginning to see the growth of these businesses in many different channels, whether it is places like Talkspace, which are creating new areas to talk about personal issues such as depression, or we're looking at a faster growing product than even Hims, which is Roman, which is this teledoc for these personal, for the personal challenges that many of us face, or whether it is publishing, which we think is actually a massively untapped opportunity. The Skim just bought Purple. You'll begin to see more publishing platforms here, or if it's something as simple as creating loyalty programs. Jack in the Box is probably one of the most aggressive in the space today. We even are seeing brands being created using messaging. We'll talk to Zach Normandy on this stage. We also think that politics is very huge. I think you guys have seen AOC talk about the fact that messaging was one of the cornerstones for getting her elected. But if any of you subscribe to the Trump text messages, you'll see how aggressive that camp is. And more importantly, the next time you look at a candidate, look right below the name of their campaign, and you will see them asking you to text. If social media elected the last president, messaging will elect this one, I assure you. Conversational commerce, we see 3 big themes: seamless payments, persistent state, the ability to jump back and forth in a conversation and not have to lose state, but complete in action. We also believe platform agnostic. Today, we're seeing a lot of point solutions that look at bots inside of things like Facebook, which we think are great, but the reality is, how do you service a consumer across all the different touch points? Everything from Instagram DM all the way to WhatsApp, WeChat, and everything in between. We also believe, again, publishing is going to be huge. For the first time ever, publishers, again, have the opportunity to own your audiences. New interaction models like texting with the author of an article, we believe are going to explode, and better monetization. Today, 2 trillion messages are sent from business to consumer that go unmonetized. Conversational science, everything from personalization to automation and human. I've been calling it humanation. I found out that that's a weird religious term, so I don't use that much anymore. Anyway, data analysis, we'll talk about case studies of where we've where we've given sales folks platforms that allow them to do CRM type activities, but then step back and look at an entire organization and what words close and share those with different sales folks, and actually take a salesperson from $6,000 a month to $100,000 a month selling on the floor of an electronics store. All the way to visual design, which you will see our co-sponsor here, and I'm a co-founder of, Open Message, which is really reinventing the visual platform for design, as well as conversational commerce and ultimately monetization. That is probably the most exciting product that I've had the chance to see. But the thing I want you guys to take away from me is that Miles Davis said, don't play what's there, but play what's not. And when we think about how do we unlock growth and how do we create those new opportunities for our businesses to connect with consumers in ways that have never been done before, many times the future is not what's right in front of us, but what's ahead of us. And we believe that messaging represents that pathway to what's ahead of us. And while many question and might not be able to see it right now, we have to play what's not there in order to unlock the growth and potential of tomorrow. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I will be your host for the day. I'm going to turn it over to PSFK and Scott, who's going to give you a roadmap to the landscape overall. Thanks.